Now, the candidates have drawn lots to determine the order in which they will speak. And so our first candidate tonight will be Lee McCusick. And he has 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to speak to you on this issue that I think that the fire board is displaying instability in its operations. And my perception is, first of all, we keep CAL FIRE because it's in 5 years, we signed the CAL FIRE contract 5 years ago. And it is a policy extreme to reinvent the fire service every 5 years and squander $2.2 million doing the changeover. What I call this is stop the ridiculous policy extremes. These gentlemen are not accused of a crime. We disagree with their policy. Let's make this clear. It's a matter of policy. I would have voted for some of these men in a previous election, and I think I did. But this is a policy extreme, and we just have to put our foot down and stop it. You know, I've thought about why is this policy extreme taking place? And my suggestion is that what has happened to the fire board since the consolidation is the election of all the directors is at large. And we need to go back to election of directors by geographic district so that each director will have his feet firmly planted on the ground. And we'll stop having policy monsters like this amazing solution they've got to a problem that is about the size of a peanut.
I made out a card already,
And that's
but this
why I
is
want to
easier
get on
this
the
one.
board and keep CAL FIRE.
Thank you. The next candidate is Gary Riddell. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Gary Riddell. I'm a 54, I've lived 54 years in Montara and retired as a firefighter who worked 25 years with Montara and Half Moon Bay Fire. The way we got here is pretty simple. The Coastside Fire District had a contract with CAL FIRE to provide fire services. Despite constant pushing by the board, CAL FIRE never lived up to the terms of the contract and provide the services that your tax dollars are paying for. CAL FIRE has also made unilateral decisions that degraded the level of service in the contract. The board had only one option: to end the contract with CAL FIRE in favor of a local fire department. So we contracted with a consultant to develop a transition plan and a long-term operation plan for the local department. Our one and only concern during this process was to make sure that the voters got the best services for their tax dollars. Our consultants confirmed what we had already knew, that we could provide a better level of service under our current operating budget by switching to a local department. Let's be clear, I'm interested in getting the best possible services for the taxpayer. Recalls and slogans don't save lives. Local, well-trained firefighters do.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Doug McIntosh. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. For 21 of the last 33 years that I have lived and raised a family on the coast, I've been on the fire board. During that time, I have this department has always been in the black, and as long as I'm there, it will continue to stay in the black. I've worked on the committee that put paramedics on every fire engine in this county. We developed a quality cliff rescue program and made strides in developing a water rescue and water safety program for all those responses that we have out to the harbor. We built a new fire station. We did all of these within budget. My family is the most important thing there is in my life. My family, my grandkids, and anybody that wants to say that I'm going to put them at risk to make a change doesn't know me very well. I've spent 4 years trying to make this program work. Worked closely with CAL FIRE. We developed some major documentation to deal with that. In the end, we've come to the conclusion that we can't get any better than where we are now. If we're going to move ahead, we've got to move ahead with a locally controlled program. So after a year of intensive analysis, it shows us that a local department is feasible with no additional cost to the taxpayer. My conclusion comes: we need to have the best possible fire service we can. We need to do it at an affordable price. And that means a local fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Mike Olifano.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Michael Olifano. I was born and raised here on the coast side. Went to the local public school system here. I have a family here now. I have a business. I pride myself on having all local employees. I'm all about my community. I'm past president of the Boys and Girls Club here on the coast side. I'm on the board of Cabrillo Education Foundation. I'm on 3 appointed boards by the school board trustees, Measure E oversight, Measure S oversight, and Measure S steering committee. I think I have a proven track record of my community and what's best for my community. When I got on this board almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I sat on the board for a year, learning all the different issues, the politics, the contract, levels of service, and after a year of watching this, I watched it unfold in front of me, the lower level of service CAL FIRE is providing us. I watched the fire marshals go out the window. I watched the complaints come in because of it. It's to the point now where it wasn't working, and we didn't have a plan B. My hope in getting the board to hire consultants to look at other options was twofold. One, I wanted to see what it cost and what it would take, but I also wanted to see if CAL FIRE as an organization would step up and perform per the terms of the contract that was mutually agreed upon. The board has spent 4, almost 5 years now trying to get them to perform. It's to the point now where they're not performing and we're paying for services we're not receiving. At some point, you have to make the best choices for your community, and those choices aren't easy ones. This is a very tough decision. But when you look at who's behind the recall, you look at who's funding it, you look at who's starting it, it's a fire union that's here right now not performing. I don't fault the people that are here, I fault the organization that can't adjust to what our community needs are. We have a lower level of service. Prior to CAL FIRE, we had 2 ambulances, we had a water rescue program. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd ask the audience, please, to refrain from any comments or whatever. The purpose is for everybody to be able to hear the candidates and for the candidates to express their own opinions. Thank you, Mr. Olifano. Next is Mr. Cockrell.
I'm J.B. Cockrell. I've been here since '76. You can do the math. I've raised two sons here. Both of them are gainfully employed, and neither one of them are in prison. So obviously, I like it here, and I plan to stay here. I've been following the fire service here in the area since 1991, when I was a volunteer firefighter at the Point Montero Fire Department. And I've been extremely interested in the goings and of the fire board, even in the old Point Montero days, going back to Proposition H in 1995. And I watched the whole thing unfold, where we went from our own, just a small district of Point Montero, to where we started contracting with Half Moon Bay, not unlike what we're doing now with CAL FIRE. And I remember hearing some of the complaints then by a particular fire board member that are no different than the complaints I'm hearing today, only the enemy name has changed. Anyway, I watched it with dismay going into the early 2000s with all of the litigation, all the grievances, all the problems, the malicious mischief, the problems amongst the firefighters. Clearly they had some major management problems that had to be dealt with. And it got to the point where they even ran one of the chiefs off, so he resigned. They brought in another chief to clean up the mess. And after trying his best, he threw up his hands in dismay, and he left. They brought in another chief. He stayed for a while, and the same thing happened, and we finally were able to replace him with an interim chief. About the same time, the grand jury started looking at the situation. The grand jury recommended back before that they consolidate and outsource the staffing of the stations. And after some proposals from only 2 departments, the board made a decision after a series of lengthy public meetings to go with CAL FIRE. The 5 years they've been here, all the problems that we had before have gone away. The litigation has stopped. All the massive grievances have stopped. All the management issues have been dealt with by CAL FIRE and all the board had.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. And finally, our last candidate for opening statement is Karen Anderson. 2 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Karen K. Anderson. I have been a resident of the Coast Side and the Fire District and Kenyatta Cove for the last 13 and a half years. I love it here on the Coast Side. As many of you may know, we at Kenyatta Cove, because we are a retirement community, get the lion's share of the service from the Coast Side Fire District. I myself have on more than one occasion made use of CAL FIRE. I made use of the old standalone, and from my personal experience, the quality of service I've been receiving from CAL FIRE over the last 5 years is far superior to what it was under the old standalone. Oddly enough, some of the questions that have been raised about people being cycled in who work for CAL FIRE, that hasn't been my experience, but it was my experience under the old standalone. I became involved in the recall when a friend of mine asked me if I would gather signatures to recall the fire board. I'm probably like a lot of you. I didn't even know there was a fire board. All I knew was that when I called 911, some nice professional guys showed up and took me to the hospital. And when I found out that the board, the majority, was trying to take these firefighters away from me, I said, no way. Sure, I'll gather signatures. And I did so as an unpaid volunteer, and I gathered a lot of signatures. Now the recall's on the ballot, and we'd like you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Now it's time for